Hey everybody, I don't know what it is, but there's something about Summer Games Fest that brings out all the nutcases. In today's video, we're gonna be calling out some lies, falsities, misinterpretations, and more from Reforge Gaming. But first, I should show you what happened so that you have full context, because of course, not everybody uses X and all that. So a couple of days ago, during the Summer Games Fest events, there was a reveal for Resident Evil 9, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. And this guy took to social media to wake out about it, saying that dudes are already calling the Resident Evil 9 lead protagonist ugly. An epidemic of loneliness and misery is truly making some of you insane. This blew up because nobody was saying anything at all about this. This wasn't a discussion online, it wasn't a point of focus at all, it wasn't a narrative, it wasn't even recognizable, making it look like just another one of these instances where goblins come out from underground to just rage bait people with crap that didn't happen. Which is actually incredibly ironic coming from Reforge Gaming, because if I'm not mistaken, he was the guy earlier this year talking about how all the Gamergate channels are cooked because they would have nothing to talk about this year, since now all the controversies would cease to exist as the industry swung along with the pendulum. So these channels would either have to pivot to something else or die out because they couldn't rage bait anymore. Meanwhile, he's the one desperately scraping the bottom of the barrel to create controversy online. But anyway, Vara Dark from Dark Titan Media saw this and made a video calling it out. Here's a couple of relevant clips from there.
It's always funny to me when people online get called out on their BS, and that is exactly what has happened right now with Reforged Gaming. He was claiming that there were tons of people calling Resident Evil 9's lead protagonist ugly, yet gamers are wrecking him, saying that's just not true. You're pushing a narrative that there's tons of gamers, there's an overwhelming amount of gamers who are fighting against this, who do not like this, when that just isn't the case. You say, oh my gosh, you guys need to get a life, you know, as his quote says, an epidemic of loneliness and misery is truly making some of you insane, when that literally is not the case. All you are doing is pushing this narrative that gamers are chuds and they're losers and they're lonely and they're misery for calling out a character, questioning a character, but in this case, it isn't even really happening. All you are doing is trying to frame gamers as being losers.
And boy oh boy, he didn't like that at all. He started ranting on stream when people told him about it. He went out of his way to lie and be incredibly disingenuous, flipping the blame onto people like yourselves watching right now for merely criticizing the games industry, for merely having your eyes open to the information that is out there. And the best part about it is how he did this while also placing himself on a pedestal of truth and nuance and accuracy, of which he has provably none. And that's what we'll be going over and exposing in this video, so let's get to it. But first, we're gonna do a quick addition for further context, not just for you guys, so that you guys have the full story, but also for him so that he can't come in here and cry about being misrepresented. When he got called out on his post for making this shit up, I'm sorry guys, it's just funny. So when he got called out for making this shit up, he posted these screenshots to prove his point. Some random guy on X whose post was viewed by dozens of thousands of people and only got 34 likes, and judging by the number of comments plus his reply to his own post, it sounds like he was getting cooked for his take. Then he shared 2 screenshots of Asmongold's live chat because, of course, there's no better place in the world to get a good grasp of genuine thinking, genuine discussion than a live stream chat caked with emojis. This is actually something that I just talked about a few days ago in this video, where a developer was spazzing out over mean or dismissive comments in a live chat from Summer Games Fest. I guess I'll repeat it for Reforge since he hasn't gotten there yet on his own, but comments in the live chat are not indicative of anything. These chats are not there for insightful discourse, most of it is geared towards trolling or saying the funniest and shortest thing that someone can come up with, especially geared towards getting the attention of the streamer, which is a natural breeding ground for inflammatory comments. It's like a fucking Call of Duty lobby. If it's a lot of them echoing a common negative sentiment, for example, then it can at times be indicative of how people are feeling towards the game's presentation, negative or positive. But it's still not substantive, and people's actual views are born from deeper discussions either on posts or forums or videos, and especially in the light of new information that may come out. Like, why is this dude taking this shit so seriously? As a common sentiment, like dudes are out here saying the character is ugly, when most of his chat wasn't even going along with it. What else are we going to be taking seriously here? The comments saying that it's Devil May Cry 6? I mean, maybe it's the new Dante, I don't know. How about the one saying that it's Rockstar? I mean, hell, I don't know, maybe someone genuinely thought that this was GTA 6, or maybe 7, or maybe the one saying Evil Within, even though the studio got cut off from Xbox last year. What about this one here with the picture of... I mean, I don't even know what the fuck this is. Is that a Ninja Turtle? Are we going to take this seriously too? Maybe it's a hidden message with some hidden meaning. And look at this one here from Bob Gray. Woman but not man, DEI, with a face laughing. Like, this dude is straight up just trolling on a chat, and you're taking this plus some random schmuck on X as proof of this being a narrative that's being perpetuated online, especially perpetuated by people who you are going to be referencing in the video that we were about to watch. Are you delusional? Like, you know you're screwed when even the patron saint of raising a ruckus about these things, Grums himself, comes onto your post to say that if it was true, he would have said it, and you got it all wrong and you're just baiting. Hell, even Endymion popped up just to say that she looks fine. Like, holy shit, man, you know your narrative is cooked when even Endymion himself isn't backing it up. Like, this is the guy who just says whatever he thinks no matter what. And the more inflammatory for him, the better, because he thrives on it. And yet, here he is. Reforge was trying to weasel out of his original narrative with those screenshots when he saw that things weren't going his way, with people calling him out. But his own wording betrays him in that tweet. And in the clip that we're going to go through now, where he generalizes this to everyone who has their eyes and ears open and use critical thinking.
So Vara Dark put up a video on you. It was a laugh. Oh, because of my tweet about the Resident Evil thing, and they're all in denial. They can put me in their content all they want. I don't care. I will never appeal to their audience because I don't deal in grift and half-truths.
Oh brother, the Nile is a river in Egypt, and his post had absolutely no substance whatsoever. He created a narrative that suits his own little soy world, and now he's upset because he got called out. And not even the worst of the worst from his perspective, like Crumbs and Endymion, took that bait and ran with it, making posts towards their huge follower bases about the character being ugly. If he wanted to call out a few people being stupid online, then that's what he should have done. Call out the stupid people being stupid online, that's it. But that's not what he was doing. He was trying to generate a false narrative and apply it to everyone out there who dares to criticize or call out certain matters within the industry these days, despite the fact that none of them were actually doing it.
I will never appeal to their audience because I don't deal in grift and half-truths. Listen to me. What I said got attention because a hit dog barks, and they've created and fostered a monster, and they don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit the fact that now every single time a minority or a woman is on screen, that's the conversation that starts immediately. A millisecond later, there are people typing DEI, woke, and ugly in the chat. And it happened with Resident Evil 9, and they're all in denial. They can all say nobody's saying this, which is absolutely idiotic to claim. Plenty of people were saying it. We had screenshots from Asmongold's chat. People were immediately saying DEI and woke. We had people in our chat saying it. We had a tweet. We had multiple tweets in response to my tweet saying that the woman was ugly. That is now a conversation piece for every frickin' game. And it came from the grifting anti-woke ilk of the internet.
What? The monster that we created? It came from the anti-what grifting ilk? Well, what is he talking about? This statement here, coupled alongside this following statement that I'm about to show you, where he's acting as if he is the pinnacle of truth, substance, and accuracy, is actually hilarious.
Yeah, well, you'll learn very quickly attacking me is a bad idea. It doesn't work. All you do is make the thing you attack more interesting and more appealing generally, because people are going to get tired of the grift. They're going to be starving for truth. and substance and accuracy. And you're not going to get it from videos talking about woke this, ugly that. You just aren't. So great, I'm glad I'm showing up in that content because I want there to be a very clear dividing line in the sand. Like, that is not the kind of content I'm going to make.
I mean, this is just gold. The monster that we created, what is this, a fucking Dragon Age Veilguard fanfiction? First, he's drawing a false equivalency and generalization by making the claim that people who are actually unbiased, nuanced, and caring about truth and accuracy enough to see what the hell is going on in these industries, who actually bother to do the minimum research into what they're talking about by bringing to light statements from consultants laying out their agendas all on their own, or bringing to light the actual politicization that is happening in the game developers conferences, such as with screenshots like these, or bringing to light this list of creative restrictions from Xbox Game Studios that actually points out the exact thing that it is claiming does not exist. It's actually right there. Let's read it together. Are you introducing any negative gender stereotypes? Are you unnecessarily introducing gender and gender barriers into your code or design? Into your code? What do you mean? Are you introducing gender into your code? Oh god, no, not the fucking code! Are you creating playable female characters that are equal in skill and ability to their male peers? Are your female characters equipped with clothing and armor that fits their tasks? And more importantly, do they have exaggerated body proportions? Do they look like women? Because if they look like women, we cannot have this! We cannot have this! When the story allows, do you show male characters who display a full range of emotions, including joy, sadness, and vulnerability? What percentage of screen time, on-screen presence, speaking lines, heroes is held by different gender and racial identities?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Do you have a process to review key decisions with a lens of helping customers feel seen? I didn't even need to read all of this. All I needed to read was the female part, because it's what pertains to this issue that he's talking shit about right now. You know, especially the part about exaggerated body proportions, where it's clear what they're trying to say. If your character looks like Eve from Stellar Blade, that's a big no-no. But, you know, I just read this entire side. There's even more. Like, this entire list is unhinged. It's unhinged, and they posted it themselves. Microsoft, or in this case, the Xbox Game Studios division, came out and just posted this themselves to show everyone how amazingly virtuous they were. And then we're supposed to listen to people like this guy telling us that no, none of this exists, and if you talk about it, you're some kind of monster grifter or some other bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. In his generalization, he's talking about people who literally just use their brain and their eyes to see what's right in front of them, and calling them liars who have made shit up and created a monster. Like, no, son, if this monster of yours even exists, which in this case right here with Resident Evil 9, it did not. Like, I'm sorry, but a few people trolling a live stream chat is not the narrative that you're implying that exists here. That's just number one. But even if it does exist, it wasn't created by the people who noticed it and have been fighting against it. Keyword noticed. If we are to use your monster terminology, then this monster of yours was something people noticed. They didn't create it. You can't create something like this from thin air. There's either something there that people see for themselves and resonate with whenever YouTubers start making videos on the matter, or there would be no such YouTubers to begin with. People voiced their opinions against this stuff already, going back years to other mediums where it manifested itself more strongly at first, such as movies and TV shows. One look at Disney and you can see your goddamn monster in plain sight. You don't even need to look for it in the closet, because Disney was so overt with this stuff that it couldn't even be ignored. And of course, anyone criticizing the diminishing quality of these shows were insulted, called all manner of bigotisms by creatives in the company and even actors themselves. And, you know, goes without saying, but the excess media too, of course. So please, do let me know, Mr. Reforge Gaming. Please tell me, who created this monster then? Who was it? Was it Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker who fucking told Disney to behave like this? Was it them who told Disney to make their shows to be such dog shit that their views plummeted and people clowned on how bad these shows and movies have been? This is such an unfounded, ridiculous narrative, dude. Come on. The people in these industries are the ones who decided to ramp up censorship, creative restrictions, political correctness, and all manner of other activistic bullshit out here in the western side of the entertainment industry as a whole. They were being reactionary and they incited a reaction. On the gaming side, you got straight up game developers from Japan speaking out against it, as it happened last year when the western division of Square Enix wanted the developers of the Dragon Quest remake to censor their game in order for it to be sold here. And yet Reforge Gaming just fucking ignores all of this. He just pretends like this shit is not happening. He's capable of literally being face to face with a character on the left side of the screen and her actress or face model on the right side of the screen, and they both look very different because the character has been with just to make her look uglier or less feminine or less appealing, and he will just ignore it. He'll just determine that the example is not a good one.
There are people that hang out here that don't agree with me on this. They think there's a woke agenda in games. They think they're making women ugly on purpose in games. They think there's examples. The examples are always terrible. We've had this conversation 18 different times.
He'll just close his eyes to it and completely ignore the trends and mission statements being pushed by either consultants or activists or both who work at these studios and host panels and presentations at GDC talking about precisely this stuff. He's capable of looking at the list from the Xbox Game Studios, which has been out for over a year already, which explicitly talks about this stuff and so much more, and completely dismiss it or pretend that it doesn't exist. But then he has the balls to say, oh, talk about me, because you know what, when those people come and see my channel, they will wake up when they see a real dude with truth and substance and accuracy. Accuracy of what exactly? Applying fucking clown makeup to that face? Cause that's about the only accurate thing you've got going on here. You're not unbiased, you're not nuanced, you purposefully hide away from the truth, and the only substance that you claim to have is tainted by lies and deliberate misinterpretations of the facts. You're not gonna take anyone's audience who's actually interested in truth and objectivity because you have none of it. You're just another one of these people closing your eyes to what's in front of you and choosing to take any goddamn comment online from some random f***ing source, even if it's a troll, and weaving a narrative out of it that suits you. And then, worse, pointing at people who acknowledge these self-evident problems in the industry that are out in the open for everyone to see, and going, oh, this is your fault, this is on you, you created this monster. When the people who actually posted these comments aren't even part of their audiences, which doesn't even matter if they were, because they have not expressed such opinions. If it's not their opinion, they cannot be held accountable for it. I mean, Jesus, the concept itself doesn't even work when you take history into it, let alone anything else. This kind of shitty comment on the internet has always existed since time immemorial, and he has to know this, unless he's retarded enough to suggest that before this whole Gamergate thing started, the games industry was a perfect universe where everyone was happy and cute and bubbly, and everyone loved everything and celebrated every release and just lived happily ever after. Like, what the fuck are you, There's always been people talking shit in comment sections, live chats, and hell, even in games. Arguably, it used to be even worse when there was less control over it in general. There's always been very inflammatory comments of a certain kind from certain people. It just is what it is, it's the internet. It's just that it didn't matter because it was a very, very, very small minority, an actual one, and it was totally pointless and people didn't even agree with them. Some of these people are still around right now. Not too long ago, I noticed a comment online of a guy saying that women should not be in game development, period. And the fucking hilarious thing is that people like this don't even like people like Crumbs or people like Endymion. They look at them as fakes, they look at them as pussies, some of them call them woke. So how are these people creating content talking about these issues in the industry today, where they actually do overtly exist with plenty of examples and receipts available for anyone to pull up, supposed to be responsible for some minority of people who were already dropping inflammatory comments like these decades ago? What are you gonna do here? Are you gonna use the DeLorean, go back in time and look at a random guy talking shit online about a random female protagonist from some old ass 2007 or 2008 game and then say, oh look guys, it's the monster you created in the future? Wake the fuck up, you goddamn tourist. A narrative is a narrative. It's composed by a significant amount of people pushing the message, and ideally, it's supported and pushed by significant voices in the space, especially the ones that you were implying and that in reality didn't really say anything at all about this. In fact, they disagreed with it. None of this was happening in relation to Resident Evil 9. A few trolls or even a few legitimate commenters thinking that the character looks ugly doesn't mean shit. DEI comments because of a female protagonist in a Resident Evil game doesn't mean shit either. Any fan worth their salt would immediately shatter that by pointing to all the playable female protagonists of Resident Evil history, and if they wanted to really shut that down, they would also show how successful those games were and how positive fan response has always been to characters like Ava, Claire, Alice, and Jill Valentine. Ugh, this was such a nothing burger. You wanna know what the true monster is? What made it so that what was once a few extreme people talking shit on the internet ended up growing a lot more and actually becoming a legitimate part of video game discourse? It's the fact that the industry did change throughout all of these years. The fact that a real problem has actually developed underneath it all by inviting this cringy culture of activism and social impact with measures like that list from Xbox Game Studios and so much more of all the cringe that goes down at GDC. All of this garbage hindering the creative process and even hiring practices of these studios, leading to crappy games that nobody wants to play because they are deliberately distancing themselves from their established fan bases while in pursuit of the modern audience. At the end of the day, this is actually the biggest problem, the core issue. It's that they can't reconcile both of their worlds. They cannot find a way to make their activism or whatever work with what the audience wants. They want to find them and the things that they like problematic, and they want to change it. And then of course these games don't appeal to people anymore. If these games were good, nobody would care. Nobody would care if the developer is conservative or democratic or liberal or woke or whatever the fuck else. Well, I say nobody, but obviously there's people who would, but you get my point. It's the internet. At the end of the day, the internet is always going to be the internet. But as long as these games were still good, these stories were still good, the character designs, everything was still good, everything still working at peak capacity, the majority of us would not have anything to complain about. There would be no monster. Just like there's no monster for so many games, like, oh, the monster, what fucking monster? Did you see people trying to boycott, insult, or piss on Resident Evil 4 Remake for having Ava driving the action in the DLC? This bullshit about a monster you created, dude, learn to read and interpret things correctly before putting people on blast like this for things that they didn't say and didn't even advocate for. Like, fuck, some of these very creators are women themselves, like Vara, the one that you're crashing out over. This is just blatant bad faith interpretation mixed with hazardous levels of copium, ego, and deception. To actually act like you're the one who focuses on truth and accuracy and substance and all this when you can't even acknowledge shit that's written down and practically hand-fed to you by the companies themselves is rich. And when you do this, you don't do yourself and your goal any favors at all either, because you're showing that you can't even defend it. I mean, it's one thing to acknowledge something that is there and then coming up with your reasons to defend it or support its existence in the industry, even if they're stupid reasons, even if they don't make sense, even if they aren't supported by facts or data. But you can't even do that. Like, damn. You can't even try to whip up some nonsense in its favor. All you can do is pretend like all of this shit that is plain for everyone to see doesn't exist. All of these issues that actually created this monster that you speak of don't exist. The monster exists, but somehow it's the fault of a few people who began making videos about things. Just making random shit up. Like somehow these people are just fucking mages or something. Somehow they found and tamed the Mind Stone, or maybe the Reality Stone, to get millions of people to listen to them and believe them, and to even follow them and ignore all of these games, movies, and TV shows which were apparently total bangers. I mean, goddamn, that is something. Can somebody teach me that trick? Can somebody please teach me this chud power, because this is actually even more impressive than that spell that Doctor Strange does in the Spider-Man No Way Home movie. Somehow this delusional-ass story is more credible and legitimate than the reality that people are responding to a problem that actually exists in the games industry. And the others, of course, movie, TV shows, comic books, it's everywhere. Like, damn, dude, I've seen some bad takes from this guy before, but I just always avoided talking about him for so long because he just looks so damn sad every video he makes. Like, he's just a sad fella on a chair in a dark room. His camera placement is too high. He's always looking down like a puppy or something, I don't know. But I couldn't keep ignoring it anymore because this just takes the damn cake.
I don't give a frick about this stupid social point rat race that you guys play. I said what I said because I saw people saying that, and that's now the immediate conversation that we have to have about video games.
It's really not though, is it? I mean, you only really have that conversation if you want to, that's number one. Also, if you're having that conversation, you have to actually have it, which is something that you provably don't do because you don't even look into anything that you're talking about. You deliberately dodge established facts that don't play nice with your narrative. Again,
they're gonna be starving for truth and substance and accuracy.
And substance, truth, accuracy, and nuance are totally unachievable when you do this. So you're not even really having the conversation, at best you're manipulating it, enabling destructive practices to continue tainting the world of entertainment while calling the conversation and those actually interested in having it to be inherently bad people. That's number 2. And number 3, if you actually were interested in having an honest conversation, you would have stopped generalizing shit a long time ago by noticing that there is no stupid-ass hive mind organization here. The grifters, as you call it, pushing the same envelope and creating this monster. You've got a ridiculous and unrealistic view of the matter that puts everyone into a box. You don't acknowledge individuals and their informed opinions. You don't even acknowledge the divide between the people that you're talking shit about. You don't even acknowledge how even they disagree with each other and how their audiences are composed of different people that sometimes don't even cross over and mix with one another. You really only ever acknowledge this whenever it suits you, which is a running theme with your disingenuous ass takes. And of course you don't do any of this because it shatters the narrative. It breaks this little delusion that you've created for yourself to justify your continued ignorance of the matter and your continued demonization of everyone that shares a different opinion to yours. After all, how can people be creating any monster whatsoever when they don't even agree with each other when it comes to what this monster is supposed to be composed of? It's just much easier to keep misrepresenting and generalizing people with different opinions than his, and even with different opinions than those within their own circles, while coping and seething for getting called out like he just was, because it exposes the reality that this is actually all a reaction to what the industry has pushed into the space. The industry did this to itself. It wasn't these channels that pushed it there, it wasn't them that created a monster, it was the entire entertainment industry by gradually pushing for more and more of these boring, lame, pointless elements that do nothing for storytelling and just focus on pandering and political correctness. They pushed and pushed, and at first people went with it because it wasn't so bad, and maybe even some of it looked like a genuinely good thing, but then it just never stopped. It never hit the brakes, it just kept going and going to the point of reaching total lunacy and ridiculousness, to the point where it can't even be justified in a normal way anymore. Hell, they don't even try to justify it anymore. They just presented us with these shows, movies, and games, and anytime that anyone questioned what the hell is going on, they just lambasted them with accusations while hiding behind the excess media for protection. And now the bubble just burst. It's gone too far. People are sick and tired of it. There's a growing sense of distrust for these companies in charge, the big ones specifically, such as the AAA side of the industry, for example. And yes, sometimes something will pop up and people will wrongfully claim that it's political or ideological when it's not, and it's up to us, through conversation, to call that out and correct the record, or urge calm, or articulate the issue in a more helpful way than vapid rage bait. But that's not what Reforge is doing, and in this specific case, nothing even happened. You saw a few stupid comments online that anyone can find. You can literally find whatever you want on the internet. Whatever you want to find, you can fucking find it. And he just took that and pushed the narrative that he wanted to for whatever goal he had in mind. Rage bait, agendas, pushing a narrative, I don't care, you'd have to ask him. And that is if he even had a goal. Truth is, maybe he just woke up that day and chose cringe, I don't know. Actually, it's probably the cringe part, because this right here about being so far above it all, someone who people will look up to and ditch their supposed grifter audiences for because of how truthful and accurate and substantive he is, while not even being able to address the foundation of the matter. I mean, again, this is deluded clown behavior. If you can't even acknowledge the baseline reality of what is going on, then you can't engage in a conversation about it. And if you can't engage in conversation, you have no truth or substance to offer. All you have is crashing out on stream, putting everyone that disagrees with you into a box of grifters and monsters, while puffing your chest with like 100 points invested into deluded confidence but 0 in intelligence or speech.
Look at you. You look like a talent scout for a cemetery.
Just stop.
Hey, look at this guy.
Stop.
Those muscles are unreal. I mean it.
No.
They're imaginary.
Stop.
Reforge's narrative is that people who see what's right in front of them and call it out or watch videos from others who do are all a bunch of brainwashed morons, or the morons doing the brainwashing. I believe this baseless delusion of his is the only way that he can cope because it's the only one that plays into his worldview. It's the comfortable answer. He can't even fathom that people are seeing these problems in the entertainment industry on their own without listening to anyone, just seeing these things happening. Again, this guy is living on the moon. If I was to use the monster analogy, like if there was a monster here that someone created and that sucked me into all of this, you know, and creating videos and everything, the culprit would have actually been the gaming news media and the Hollywood access media for me. Because the only reason I got pushed so far to the point where I got so sick and tired of it all that I felt like I needed to vent and decided to make my own video back in September last year was them. It was the access media, both in the Hollywood side of things and the gaming side of things. I would literally be at work, taking a break with my phone because I was lucky enough to have a lot of dead time, like I worked in restoration, and by restoration I mean restaurants. I don't know if... I'm not a mage at the Winterhold School of Magic, so I worked there and I had a lot of reprieve between the hours after lunch break and then when the snack time started, so basically between 2 and 4 p.m. And I would sit down and browse Facebook, and it was just article after article after article, constantly fucking rage-baiting gamers or geeks in general for not eating the slop that was put in front of them, for merely criticizing the games or shows that they didn't like, and for the very overt and plain-to-see instances of studios pandering to people of color or the LGBTQ+, and then using them as shields against criticism when the product would release and be total dogshit. Sometimes the issues didn't even have anything to do with people of color or the LGBTQ+, but the media made it about them, the media and the producers, because they believed that just by pulling that card, all criticism should be swept under a rug. And among other garbage articles, I mean, holy hell, there was so much of it that was literally taking my free-ish time between those hours to write huge comments on posts calling things out. Like I was literally writing the essays that I would later start converting into scripts for videos because this was so constant. The one that got me to finally go over the edge was that hit piece on Black Myth Wukong packed with lies, like the mistranslated statements from IGN trying to paint the studio as bad people, and the .esports article making two egregious claims. Number one, that the game has no female characters, and so, of course, all of those rumors from the mistranslated IGN hit piece must be true, and number two, that the game featured no diversity whatsoever. So, a fucking game based on Chinese mythology where you play as a monkey and beat down on all manner of diverse creatures was not diverse enough because what? It didn't have box-checking NPCs throwing a fucking pride parade in front of the ancient temple of the Bull Demon King or some shit? The article went as far as to claim that the game was dangerous and fostering a hateful community of alt-right people. Excuse me? Is that what I am now for liking this game and for now wanting gender and race-obsessed Western consultant studios to meddle with it and turn it into another soulless, lame and boring product for the modern audience? Listen man, there's only so much that a normal person can fucking take of this. This is where I hit my limit. I have always been in progressive circles and even held progressive opinions. For at least 4 or 5 years, there was already enough shit that was bothering me, little by little, just dinging me in the back of the head like, what's that? Some actor said something like 10 years ago and now we're supposed to cancel him? What? What is this? We're supposed to do what now? We're supposed to believe what? What? Lord of the Rings is racist now? When did that happen? Things that I was no longer even being able to just ignore anymore, and I was just already questioning and trying to put the brakes on things, at least with some of my friends, because I was watching them getting radicalized in real time. Then in 2023, that whole thing with Hogwarts Legacy also happened, and that was the time where a lot of people in this space had their eyes open to just how unhinged and animalistic some of these people are. They play the part of kind, tolerant, accepting, and inclusive people, and yet they were literally going out of their way to harass people for playing a video game that had no association whatsoever to someone that they disagreed with. Forget about the disagreement part, which is a whole other problem on its own. The goddamn game had not been touched by her. The studio was relatively unknown. This was their first big project after years of making kiddie games from Disney or Pixar properties, and the only association to J.K. Rowling was the brand name. The studio even featured a trans character that was totally unnecessary and unfitting with the setting. But none of that mattered, and these people lost their damn minds anyway, sending death threats and worse, to the point of coordinating between them with a tracker that they created to be able to know who was streaming the game and when, just so that they could organize and swarm them with despicable hatred and threats until the streamers were broken down crying or switching the damn thing off from not wanting to deal with it anymore. It didn't even matter who they were. I followed this girl on Facebook. Her name was Aronja Art or something like that. All she did was she painted. She liked painting things from Lord of the Rings and other properties like that, and she was excited to play Hogwarts Legacy and paint a piece of scenery from it, and she got harassed by these morons. This event alone showed everyone who was in that circle, which was a lot of people because this game was massive. It sold like 22 million copies in the first month. It showed them this facade of kindness and all that virtue signalistic garbage as just a bunch of bullshit. Things were really much simpler than that. You're either with the cult or you're the enemy. Like, again, man, all this just to say that I didn't watch any videos from any of these people that you demonize now. I didn't even know of their channels or content until starting to make videos myself. None of them brainwashed me. No news network did either. Hell, how could they? The mainstream media does the opposite by going to bat in defense for these ideologies. No monster created by these goddamn people that I never even knew the existence of came from under my bed and swallowed me in. None of any of this delusional bullshit that you're preaching over here happened. The diminishing quality of the content being made, and then the gaslighting from the media and at times including showrunners and actors themselves, are the ones that did that. The virtue signaling and the disgusting attitude of trying to silence me or putting words in my mouth that I never said or even thought of are the ones that did that. And this is actually very important right now, this is before I even knew about Sweet Baby Inc. or how these companies work this thing in with through ESG, so I'm not even going into this whole rabbit hole of things happening behind the scenes again, that whole thing where the industry itself is the one that brought this upon itself with incredibly shady shit going on behind the scenes, and other things that are more out in the open, like the screenshot that I showed you guys from the Game Developer Conference. I'm not even counting all of that stuff, even though it is obviously very important as well. It's all clear as day evidence of an agenda, or whatever other word you want to call it. Stuff that Reforge here pretends doesn't exist because he has no way to argument against it. I'm just sticking to the surface level stuff that got me to the point of feeling like calling this out and giving YouTube a fair shot. The fact is that you don't need any of these channels that talk about these things to bring this stuff up in order for you to feel like calling it out or to see the problem. The problem is already there. Nobody likes being manipulated or deceived like this, and then blamed for shit that they didn't do, or accused of things that they aren't. I would argue that channels like these, they don't grow from getting people to wake up. I think they grow from resonating with something that people have already woken up to a long time ago, but haven't been able to put into words or haven't felt comfortable voicing. And like myself, there's many others, man, many others who are just normal people observing all of the shit taking place for years now and then subscribing to channels talking about it, with whom they resonate with. You can't make this garbage up. This is a ridiculous notion. If there's nothing problematic there, if there's nothing to relate or resonate with, if games and other pieces of media do not have these issues, then you cannot create them. You can't convince people that they're there. This is delusional. Without there actually being a problem there, these channels would not have grown to begin with. You can cope and seethe as much as you want, but this is an objective reality. People aren't going to listen and stick around for someone making random shit up and depriving them of good experiences just because they said so. Like seriously, just listen to yourself. How does that even make sense? Scores of great products being made, high quality, fun, well-written content all around us burning to the ground because somehow masses of people are avoiding them because someone on the internet told them to, even though the facts point the opposite way.
What are you, fucking stupid?
You want to talk about people creating a monster that has gone to screw up discourse in entertainment? There's your culprit, your darling access media. Get some mouthwash before pointing the finger at people who merely acknowledge what the hell is going on right in front of them and make videos about it. Do these videos count? Do they have the capacity to sour the discourse and or maybe impact the situation? Yes, of course they do, but they aren't the monster, nor are they creating the monster. They are fighting against it. The fact is that yes, if all of these channels cease to exist tomorrow, these things would pass with far less resistance. Not because people wouldn't care and would suddenly be okay with these agendas and their media being garbage, or with their comments on social media criticizing the media being labeled with istophobic insults. Like, this would still continue. People would still be pissed off. You can't force people to eat garbage. However, what would change is that channels like these wouldn't be around to archive the things that are happening and bringing them up as evidence or as a warning for potential slippery slopes, or for pointing out hypocrisies, or for calling out blatant lies, or for whatever other shady shit that these companies would be engaging in. Bad things that people don't like would happen, liars would lie, activists would crash out and insult their audiences, asshole media would push the narratives that they push, and then at some point people would move on and forget about them without anyone archiving what is going on and holding these people and companies accountable. For example, when Matt Hansen crashed out back in December, many people wouldn't even have heard of it to begin with, and then would never find out about it if it wasn't brought up again as it was when Avowed was about to release in February. Others would have just moved on and then eventually just forget the information, because at the end of the day, people have lives. They got more important things to deal with in their day-to-day than to look into these things or remember them in detail after a while. Games journalism isn't really something that people have at the forefront of their thoughts in their day-to-day. Part of these channels' existence is precisely to do that, to observe, record, archive and criticize events, to hold these people and companies accountable, because you sure as hell can't count on the actual games media to do it. If anything, they do the opposite. They attack you and they protect the companies. So of course I understand that this is a huge thorn on the side of people like this guy, because if it was up to them, nobody would be around to take out the garbage. Just let them do everything they want, let them charge us how much they want, and just keep shilling for the brand. Let it all continue decaying and keep blaming people's personal morals or views for complaining and refusing to buy objectively bad media. I'm not the type of person who leans into this narrative too much. You know, just a few days ago, Grums, for example, posted that we did it, boys, we won, we got them to change series design in The Witcher 4, and I didn't like that take because we just don't know if that's really true or not. The trailer that we saw back in December was a CGI thing where, much like it happened with Witcher 3 and Geralt's face, Ciri's face could have looked different because of a multitude of reasons that do not transition into the actual gameplay model. So, to be fully taken credit for that felt a bit much, and in general I don't like to see things this way. But the fact is that yes, in this regard here specifically, channels like these do have an impact. They're basically alternatives to the game's media. I don't even count myself up there because I'm still a small fish in a big pond pulling very few views, but in general these channels do that. So without them, yeah, things would be different, but not in a good way, because there'd be less people taking their time to look into these crashouts, archiving them, connecting them to other relevant events, etc., or looking into the lies from the media like hit pieces on Wukong. Was that fair? None of the fucking media ever called it out. Or statements from Kim Belair and other Sweet Baby employees literally airing out their own dirty laundry in interviews or panels, telling everybody how they coerced their way into working on projects and how they do indeed change the content content in those projects, or the many other controversies and shady garbage that keep going down in this broken industry. People would still be around seeing these things and not liking it. People like those guys who dropped those comments on Asmongold's chat would still be doing it anyway, of course, because again, the original sin belongs to the industry, not us who criticize it. But yeah, the resistance to this stuff would probably be less pronounced, but it is utterly delusional and uninformed to say that this is because of us. Like, nah man, you got that shit the other way around, and you will never be able to get away from that fact because the truth is stacked against you.
Don't act like that's not some monster that you helped build. And now that it's starting to rear its head, every time a game comes out, that monster wakes up in the chat and says, "It's time for me to be mad." And it's like, that is quite literally something that is now a part of the fabric of this conversation every time games come out. And I'm going to smack it down, and I'm not going to put up with it, because it's not true.
Again, no conversation there whatsoever. Anyone can grab any comment that suits their narrative from the internet and make of it whatever they want. It's the internet after all. And also, it's not at all every time games come out, you're just making up more bullshit. Oh, I'm gonna smack it down. Brother, you're smacking down ghosts. But hey, sure, I'll be nice and I will take your bad faith statement and turn it into something somewhat valid, which would be the situations where it does happen. And in the cases where it does happen, yeah, absolutely, it sucks that this is a reality, but it has nothing to do with the channels calling it out or some other stupid monster analogy. It has to do with what the industry invited onto itself, and you can see this in action in the games that come out without any of this happening. Like, you can look at stuff like Expedition 33 and Tainted Grail, more so Expedition 33 in this case because it was way more famous, but I bring up Tainted Grail as well because for a while there a lot of people were talking about this and streaming it, praising it for being an indie project with so much depth despite being rough around the edges, and nobody was insulting it or talking about these topics. And besides these two, you can also look at Elden Ring Night Rain, Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers, Lies of P Overture, Stellar Blade, Lost Soul Aside, and a myriad of other titles that were announced or shown off during Summer Games Fest or before, and you will not find this discourse anywhere. And why is that? Because people aren't unhinged throwing out these wild accusations and soiling themselves with every game that gets announced. If it's a studio that people trust, or a studio that is very clearly not pandering to the same things that these AAA companies have dedicated themselves into in their pursuit of turning their video games into tools for social impact rather than entertainment for gamers to escape into, then these narratives do not take form. And sure, some comments may be thrown around somewhere. Again, it's the goddamn internet. Picture the worst thing that anyone could ever say about any matter, double it, and it is guaranteed that someone somewhere is saying something that is even far worse than that. But that doesn't make it a narrative. That doesn't make it a fact. It doesn't make it a epidemic of loneliness or some kind of monster of a narrative. Especially the kind that you're suggesting and generalizing people into. People who actually call each other out and often have disagreements with one another on certain situations like this.
People calling me a woke and liberal, I couldn't be more non-woke, non-liberal. If, like, goodness gracious, could you peg me wrong? You couldn't peg me more wrong. The only other way to call me something more inaccurate, like calling me like liberal, progressive, or like woke, he's a wokey, you might as well call me like a black woman.
What?
Then why are you afraid of addressing the facts? The reason why people called you that is very simple. You don't acknowledge anything at all that is going on in this industry. You just defend it blindly and call everyone else who doesn't agree with you a grifter. That's standard behavior for people like that. And you're capable of seeing someone complain about a female character looking ugly, and you just get triggered like a snowflake and lose your composure. You got that derangement syndrome in you where you can't even hear it. You immediately lose it and go on tirades like this about monsters, labeling people with random BS that you just made up and generalizing them into non-existent boxes. When sometimes an ugly character is just an ugly character, and someone saying that a character is ugly is just someone saying that a character is ugly to them. And that right there would be 2 strikes, and that's just based on this video alone. So basically, you're looking like a duck and walking like a duck already. One more strike sounding like a duck and I'm sorry, but you're a duck. If you don't like to be pegged that way, then stop acting like that. Slow down on the judgmental behavior and kind of just talk to people. Ask them why they think so. Engage in that conversation you claim to be just fine with getting into, and stop running away from facts that hurt your narrative. And if you see some random moron saying some random unhinged shit online, grab a screenshot, point to it immediately, and say, "This guy is a f***ing moron," instead of generalizing it.
You want to drive my relevancy? Because listen, here's the difference between me and you. You have to put people in your content because that's what you live off of. Small minds talk about people, so you gotta live off of the content of others. I don't. That's the difference. So go ahead and put me in your content because you literally have to. That content lives and breathes by taking the content and the work of others, whether it's games, trailers, tweets, or videos of YouTubers. They need that. I don't. I'm never going to put any of you in my content. Not ever. Not once. Because number one, that's absolutely lowbrow. And number two, why would I ever do that? Why would I ever dignify your content with like a response or promotion?
What? You literally just made shit up online for engagement, dude.
Nice bait, you forgot your pronouns and activist groups in bio.
You don't get to make shit up that is on brand with your ever-growing lolcow status and then grandstand about it because people are taking the bullshit that you just made up and calling it out in their content. And what do you mean their content requires other people's work, be it games or trailers or YouTubers? You literally make content about games. You cover trailers, games, and controversies like the shit about Marathon and so much more. So what are you talking about? What is all this soy-filled grandstanding for? You're hardly any different than what you're describing, except for not putting other people in the space on your content, and this isn't an accolade at all because the only reason you stay away from that is being very apparent in this video. To put it simply, you just can't. You can't call anything out with valid arguments because you have none. Literally, your claim about there not being an agenda across the industry that makes female characters uglier on purpose is immediately broken with a single screenshot.
There are people that hang out here that don't agree with me on this. They think there's a woke agenda in games. They think they're making women ugly on purpose in games. They think there's examples. The examples are always terrible. We've had this conversation 18 different times.
And that's without even getting into the weeds on the matter, which runs much deeper than that. Hell, we can even make it 2 surface level screenshots with a campaign that Epic Games did with Dove. This one on screen right now. And, you know, let's do some more. We're still on the surface of this iceberg. There's also the Unreal Engine's default meshes for female characters looking ugly as hell, forcing developers to go through extra work just to create appealing designs within the confines of the engine. An engine that required coding language to be changed to remove terms that could be offensive. To who? Who the fuck knows? Maybe the computers have feelings too. This is just the surface level of this rabbit hole and you already got your narrative cucked by 3 different things. So yeah, no wonder at all that you don't put other people in your content. If you do, it's gonna be a mess. They'll be calling out your bullshit with evidence or actual arguments of what is happening in front of everyone's eyes, and you'll just sit there like, oh. It's much easier to just say, oh, dude's already calling the Resident Evil 9 protagonist ugly. You created this monster, you chud grifters, without even bringing up any names or proof, then digging up a random schmuck and a handful of chatters, some of which were clearly trolling over in an Asmongold livestream chat.
You think I can't handle a pizza? Get the f*** out.
But anyway, that brings us to the closing of this video. I have no idea what his original idea was when posting that on Twitter, but man, that was just lame as hell, man. Like, I understand seeing something that you don't agree with and having that little biting feeling in the back of your head that makes you want to call something out, But holy, I never got that from just a handful of chatters on a live stream. Like, actually taking what people say on those as anything serious or substantial is either clinically insane or just being done as a disingenuous false rage baiting, which is precisely what game journalists do. I guess that brings me quite a bit of closure on this video. Actually, I get it now. Reforge is a goddamn game journal type. This actually explains everything about it. Holy fuck. Actually, I just had an epiphany on this. I totally understand this man now and the things that he says and the way that he behaves. Well, how about that, boys? We got some closure on this one. I don't even feel like continuing the rest of the video. Now I get it. I totally understand this now. I'll make an effort anyway, though. To paint it as some kind of running narrative, you need way more than just some chatters trolling on a live stream to attribute blame to an entire and massive group of people of so many diverse viewpoints and backgrounds, which is something that you should never do anyway, to be honest, by the way. You need extraordinary receipts, man. Does it suck sometimes? Are some people genuinely annoying, just going woke this, DEI that, blah 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 blah? Yes, I called them out too. And you should feel free to do so as well, but pretending like this entire thing is stemming from content creators and not the actual industry itself when these products are failing massively because they can't even appeal to normies anymore, normies that aren't even aware of the existence of these channels, to ignore the mountain of evidence collected and exposed by people over the past year and a half, at least just the past year and a half, and I'm not even going further back than that, and to generalize everyone into a box while preaching about substance, truth, and accuracy? Man, like, nah, dude, no. You know what, Mr. Gaming Journalist, I'm out of here. If you made it... To everybody watching, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me a like if you did, and subscribe if you're new, or if you're one of the recurring 60% viewers that haven't blessed me yet. Help me get to 20k so that I can replenish my aspirin stash. It always runs out whenever I have to cover takes like this. I wonder why. But yeah, anyways, one way or another, I will see you guys on the next video. Take care.